I tried makeup once, and it stayed like a shadow that followed me around the apartment. It started the way small revolutions always do, without fanfare, late at night with the city breathing soft and distant outside the window. My name is Alex, I'm 31, and I design mobile apps for a startup that believes in minimal interfaces and messy quarterly goals. My job gives me two things that matter to a person who hides parts of themselves: a routine and disposable income. The routine keeps my days legible, the income pays for the tiny luxuries that turn a secret hobby into an indulgence: good lighting, a decent mirror, and the kind of foundation that doesn't cake after the first hour. I grew up in a house where feelings were practical things folded and put away like clean shirts. My father measured success in promotions, and my mother kept the guest room immaculate because appearances were safety. I learned early to compartmentalize. On paper, I was a reliable son, a straight man with tidy hair and predictable habits. In private, I collected textures and colors that didn't belong in any spreadsheet. Makeup arrived for me like a language I'd always meant to learn. The first time I smudged a pencil across my lower lash line, I felt like a conspirator with myself. That tiny line changed the angle of my face and the rhythm of my breathing. It was not about hiding, it was about finding the way light sat on my cheekbones and how a little gloss made my mouth look less like a tool and more like a voice. Isabella is the axis my life turned on, whether I wanted it to or not. She is 29, a photographer who shoots street portraits with an impatience that makes everything she photographs honest and raw. She adopted the city as a mood and wears thrifted leather with confidence that sometimes makes me ache. We met at a gallery opening months ago. She complimented my jacket and joked about my choice of espresso, and by the time the night ended, I had given her my number like someone handing over a secret map. With Isabella, the first learned how to enjoy being seen. She notices things she doesn't say out loud, and that is both a comfort and a threat because secrets don't survive long in rooms where she lingers. She doesn't know about my makeup habit. Not fully. She's seen me hold a brush and laugh at a ridiculous self-portrait she took once and waved it away like a thing you show friends. I told myself the truth would be easier when it came to it, that telling her would make me braver. But I also know how the human brain classifies risk and safety and how it measures love and returns. I feared saying the words that might rearrange the furniture in our relationship. Worse, I feared a version of Isabella who would be frightened or worse, bored by it. My secret life is carefully organized. Under the bottom drawer of my dresser, I keep a slim black case with Velcro straps. Inside it are the essentials: a small palette of eyeshadows, a precise brush, a compact mirror that magnifies like a microscope, and one lipstick in a dubious rose shade I buy online and tell myself is for stage performances. I call it my kit, and it's the only place in the apartment where my hands move with a kind of shy authority. The acts are small, the motions domestic: blending, tapping, dusting, the soft weight of a sponge across my cheek. But the result is more than surface. When I sit in front of the vanity and the warm lamp makes the countertop look like a stage, the person who arrives in the glass has a different posture, a softer vocal register, a nervousness that is almost joyous. Isabella and I live in a narrow apartment above a bakery where the ovens wake at 4 in the morning and the hallway smells like brown sugar. The place is small but ours. Books line the floating shelves. There are 2 mugs in the sink we both claim, and a large framed photograph of a stranger's face she took during a trip to Lisbon and never stopped talking about. On weekends, we make elaborate pancakes and argue about plants. On work nights, we fall into the couch together like 2 people grateful for the same worn cushion. Our relationship has the reassuring rhythm of shared rituals and small arguments that are always resolved by one of us making a bad joke. This ordinary intimacy is the reason my secret feels perilous. Secrets thrive in the corners, and our life has few. Outside of Isabella, the other relationships in my life play minor but important roles. My sister Mara checks in every Sunday with a meme and a text about her latest freelancing disaster. She knows I like color, and she teases me about my excessive shoe collection, though she has never opened my drawer to see the stash of tights I keep folded like contraband. My boss Ravi thinks I am methodical and reliable and is currently trying to get me to lead a redesign he calls transformative. At work, I am careful my emails are concise, my lunch is predictable. That predictability is a cloak. Why do I cross-dress? The short answer is because I want to. The longer answer is more complicated. It is partly curiosity and partly rebellion, but mostly it is about language. Clothes and makeup taught me how to translate a private feeling into a public sign. Sometimes it feels like play. Sometimes it feels like prayer. It is not always sexual, though there are edges of that too. It is more often an exercise in possibility. How would the world respond if I presented an alternate self? Would the ground shift? Would my voice soften? Would my body remember a different kind of movement? The inciting moment that will change everything begins small and mundane. One Thursday evening, Isabella cancels a shoot and decides to work from home. She collapses on the couch with headphones and a mug, and I think nothing of it. I decide to practice a new eyeliner technique I saw online on a model whose cheekbones seemed to have been carved by light itself. I spread the contents of my kit on the bathroom counter and turn the lamp low. The quiet apartment takes on the feel of an audience. What I don't expect is how the hours will stretch and how the mirror will start to look less like a reflective surface and more like a confession portal. I do not expect to fall into the work like a trance. I do not expect to reorder my voice and feel the room change with each brushstroke. I do not expect Isabella to open the bathroom door and see me mid-blend caught like someone who's been practicing a language they aren't supposed to speak. Already the scene is set. The ritual, the person who becomes more than the sum of clothes, the risk that Isabella might stay for the night and find me in the middle of becoming. The stakes feel enormous because they are not about clothes or even about being accepted. They are about the architecture of our life, the plans we make, and the little truths that hold them together. In the next part, one will peel back the layers of that night, showing exactly how the transformation unfolds, what it feels like to become beautiful, and how a single unexpected moment turns exploration into entrapment. The night that changed everything didn't begin with any grand plan. It began with boredom, the kind that hums in the background when the person you love is busy and the world outside feels too quiet to touch. Isabella had spent the afternoon editing photos in the living room, her earbuds tucked in, the rhythmic click of her mouse sounding like a metronome for her focus. I remember watching her from the hallway, the way her hair slipped forward as she leaned closer to the screen, her lips parting slightly when she adjusted the color balance on an image. I loved her that way, absorbed, radiant, unreachable. And maybe that's why I did it. I told myself I was just going to organize the bathroom cabinet, but my hands already knew what they were looking for. The small black case, my kit, waited behind a stack of towels like an accomplice. I closed the door quietly, turned on the mirror light, and stared at my reflection. The face staring back was tired, work-worn, but curious. "Just 10 minutes," I whispered. That lie had a familiar rhythm. The first thing I noticed was how deliberate everything felt. Each step of the process required calm, precision, the opposite of anxiety that usually followed me. The soft pad of the foundation brush against my cheek was grounding, like pressing reset on my thoughts. I moved slowly, tracing the curve of my jaw, watching the dullness fade. Then came the concealer, the powder, the contour. The bathroom smelled faintly of vanilla from the candle I lit, mixing with the powdery scent of the foundation. It was a small space, yet it felt like a stage. When I reached for the eyeliner, I hesitated. My hand trembled slightly. It had always been the hardest part, the line that demanded confidence. I steadied myself, drawing the first flick, then the second. The reflection changed immediately. My eyes seemed to grow deeper, more deliberate. I exhaled slowly, like I'd been holding my breath for years. Next came the lipstick, the rose shade that wasn't supposed to exist in my drawer. It was too soft, too lush, too honest. I twisted the tube open and felt a chill run through me. The color slid on smoothly, transforming my mouth from an afterthought into a statement. When I smiled, it didn't look like me. And that was the point. In the bottom of my closet, hidden beneath a folded blanket, I kept one outfit. It wasn't elaborate, just a light summer dress I'd ordered months ago under the excuse of a costume party. I'd never dared to wear it. But tonight, something inside me whispered, try. I slipped it on, and the sensation was immediate and startling. The way the fabric brushed against my skin, light and effortless, how it clung just enough to remind me of my shape. My heart thudded, not in shame, but in exhilaration. I added a pair of sheer stockings, the ones I'd bought on a whim and never opened. Pulling them up, I felt the soft resistance of nylon against my fingertips, a tension that felt both dangerous and beautiful. And finally, I stepped into a pair of low heels Isabella had left by the bed. They fit almost perfectly. I caught sight of myself in the full-length mirror and froze. It wasn't Alex staring back. Not exactly. It was someone in between, someone softer, lighter, and strangely free. I lifted my chin, tilting my head like Isabella did when she posed for photos. For a moment, the reflection smiled back like it approved. But then the old voice returned, the one that always came after the thrill. What are you doing? What if she walks in? What if this isn't a game anymore? I told myself this was about curiosity, expression, even stress relief. But deep down, I knew it was more than that. Every time I looked in the mirror, I recognized a part of myself I couldn't show anyone. And that part was growing harder to hide. I thought about Isabella, her easy laughter, the way she always said, "You never surprise me, Alex." I used to take comfort in that. Now it felt like a curse. What if she saw this side of me and realized she didn't know me at all? The air felt heavier. My pulse quickened. I paced the small space, the click of the heels echoing softly against the tiles. Each step was a reminder of beauty, of risk, of the line I just crossed. And yet, I didn't take anything off. That was when I heard the sound. At first it was faint, a door closing somewhere in the apartment. I froze. My breath caught halfway in my throat. My brain scrambled for an explanation. Maybe it's the neighbors. Maybe it's the wind. Maybe it's Isabella. I crept to the bathroom door and listened. The faint rustle of a bag, the clink of keys, unmistakable. Isabella was home early. Panic hit me like a current. I looked in the mirror, at the woman staring back, too polished, too transformed, too obvious. There was no time to undo it. My hands shook as I grabbed tissues, smudging the lipstick, the liner, trying to erase the evidence. But the makeup only blurred, leaving ghostly streaks across my cheeks. Then her voice, casual, melodic, floated down the hallway. "Alex? You here?" I couldn't answer. My throat had sealed shut. Her footsteps drew closer, slow and deliberate, the sound of sneakers brushing against the hardwood floor. I shoved the makeup bag under the sink, slammed the cabinet shut, and turned off the mirror light. The bathroom felt suffocatingly small. I could hear her right outside now. "Alex." I forced my voice to sound normal. "Yeah, just, washing up." There was a pause. "You okay?" "Yeah." I managed too quickly. Another pause, then her footsteps faded. The couch creaked. A sigh. The soft click of her laptop opening. I leaned against the sink, trembling, staring at the faintly smeared version of myself in the dark mirror. I looked like two people fighting for the same space. For the next 20 minutes, I didn't move. I could still hear her typing, the faint sound of music playing through her earbuds. Relief washed over me in waves, but it was mixed with something sharper, adrenaline. I should have wiped everything off and hidden the evidence. But instead, I picked up the mirror again and stared at the faint shadow of eyeliner still framing my eyes. Something inside me refused to erase it completely. I felt alive, electric, powerful. Maybe that was the real danger, that being caught wasn't the worst thing that could happen. The worst thing was realizing I didn't want to go back. I wiped the lipstick clean, replaced the dress with my hoodie and sweatpants, and tucked everything neatly away. But even as I walked into the living room, pretending to scroll through my phone, I could still feel the phantom brushstrokes on my face. Isabella looked up briefly, smiled. "You smell nice. New soap." My heart stuttered. Yeah," I said. "Just trying something new." She nodded, then turned back to her work, unaware that the man she loved was still half wearing another identity under the surface. Over the next few days, I couldn't stop thinking about that reflection. The rush, the fear, the strange sense of rightness. It became an itch I couldn't ignore. When Isabella left for her morning jogs, I found myself at the mirror again, recreating the same look, refining it, watching myself disappear and reappear like a ghost slipping through dimensions. I began to move differently, subtly at first. My gestures softened. My voice when I spoke to clients on video calls grew gentler, more measured. I started moisturizing, shaping my brows, even trimming my nails more carefully. Each tiny act felt like a piece of the hidden puzzle aligning. And yet, the fear of discovery kept me tethered. One morning, Isabella nearly walked in again while I was removing my makeup. I barely managed to rinse my face before she opened the door, laughing about how she'd forgotten her camera battery. Her eyes lingered on me a moment longer than usual. "You're up early," she said. "Couldn't sleep," I replied. She smiled, but her gaze flicked toward the sink, where a faint shimmer of powder still clung to the counter. For a heartbeat, neither of us spoke. Then she grabbed the battery and left, humming. I stood frozen, staring at that tiny trace of glitter. It felt like a time bomb. That night, I made a promise to myself. I'd stop. I'd put the kid away for good. I'd focus on work, on Isabella, on everything real. I'd lock away that other self before it grew any stronger. But promises are fragile things. The next day, I found myself scrolling through online makeup tutorials during lunch. I told myself it was curiosity, research even. But by the evening, I was standing in front of the mirror again, tracing the same careful lines, watching the same transformation unfold. Only this time I didn't stop. I added a wig I'd ordered impulsively, chestnut brown, shoulder length, soft curls. When I slipped it on, my reflection changed completely. And then, like some cruel echo of fate, my phone buzzed. A message from Isabella. "Got off early. Be home in 10. I looked at the mirror. At the woman staring back, terrified and beautiful. At the unopened front door. At the clock ticking down. 10 minutes. That's all the time I had to decide whether to hide, or to face her as the person I'd become. 10 minutes. That was all I had. The seconds felt like dripping wax, slow, hot, irreversible. I stood in front of the mirror, heart pounding against the ribcage that no longer felt like mine. My hands hovered uselessly at my sides. The woman in the reflection looked composed, soft curls falling just right, eyes dark and alive, lips parted like she was about to confess something forbidden. But inside, panic roared. The walls seemed to close in, the ticking clock growing louder with every heartbeat. I moved fast, pulling off the wig, fumbling with the clips, leaving strands tangled around my fingers. The lipstick smeared as I tried to wipe it away, staining the sink a bruised pink. My shirt clung to my skin with static. I barely had time to hide the wig under the sink before the lock turned. Click. "Alex." Isabella's voice was casual, cheerful, unaware. I forced air into my lungs. "Yeah, I'm here." Her footsteps echoed down the hall, confident, familiar. The kind of rhythm that usually meant safety. But not tonight. I glanced at the mirror. My face was a disaster, half made up, half erased. My cheeks flushed crimson, the faint shimmer of foundation betraying me under the bathroom light. She knocked once, lightly. "Can I come in?" "No, yes," I said. The door creaked open. For a second, time fractured. Isabella stood there, framed by the soft hallway light, her camera bag slung over her shoulder, eyes widening just slightly as they took me in. She didn't say anything at first. Just looked. Looked the way she looked through her lens, searching for the truth in a subject's eyes. "Were you?" Her voice trailed off, like she didn't want to finish the sentence. I tried to laugh, but it came out shaky. "It's, for video call prank. With the team. Stupid idea." Her gaze flicked toward the counter. The open compact, the smudged brush, the discarded tissue tinted pink. The lie wilted in the air between us. "Alex." Just my name, soft, careful, edged with confusion. I swallowed hard. I was just experimenting. It's nothing. But it wasn't nothing, and we both knew it. She stepped closer, setting her bag down. You were wearing makeup? The word hung in the air like a spark. I nodded, my pulse loud in my ears.
Yeah.
Just to see what it's like. It's kind of relaxing. Her brow furrowed, but not in anger. Curiosity, maybe.
Puzzlement.
Her eyes softened, then sharpened again. I mean, she said slowly, you're actually good at it. That caught me off guard. What?
She pointed toward my cheek.
You're blending. It's better than mine on bad days. I laughed, a nervous, broken sound. That's not exactly the reaction I expected. I'm just surprised. She crossed her arms. You've been doing this for a while, haven't you? I hesitated. That was the real question, not about makeup, but about honesty. A few times, I admitted. Mostly when you're not home. She exhaled slowly, then leaned against the doorframe. Why hide it from me? The answer was too heavy to fit into one sentence. I wanted to tell her everything. How makeup wasn't just decoration, how it felt like stepping into a version of myself that wasn't afraid to breathe. But fear won out. Because I thought you'd think it's weird, I said. She tilted her head. Weird isn't the word I'd use. Then what? Her eyes softened. Complicated. Silence. The kind of silence that fills rooms like fog. I could hear the faint hum of traffic outside, the creak of the apartment's old pipes. Then, quietly, she said, "Show me." My heart stuttered. What? Show me what you do. It wasn't a challenge. It wasn't mockery. It was something stranger, curiosity, maybe even kindness. I hesitated, then nodded. My hands trembled as I picked up the brush again. She stepped closer, standing beside me, watching in the mirror's reflection. The air between us changed. As I applied the foundation, the silence grew intimate, heavy, but not suffocating. She didn't speak, just observed. When I reached for the eyeliner, she murmured, "Here, let me." Her fingers brushed mine as she took the pencil. "Close your eyes," she said. I did. Her touch was steady, gentle. The pencil traced the edge of my lashes with surgical precision. I could feel her breath against my cheek, warm and steady. When she pulled away, I opened my eyes and met her reflection in the mirror. "There," she whispered. "Now you look like someone who isn't pretending." The words hit me harder than I expected. But before I could respond, her phone buzzed on the counter. A notification lit up the screen, her friend Maya's name flashing with a preview of a message. "Still can't believe Alex looks better than me in that filter, lol." The color drained from my face. Isabella's eyes flicked down to the phone, then back up to me. "You sent her a picture?" she asked, voice suddenly cool. I froze. No, that must have been. But she was already unlocking it. Her eyes scanned the screen, the gallery app opening automatically. And there it was, a photo I'd taken days earlier, half-dressed, half-made-up, experimenting with lighting. I'd uploaded it to a private folder, or so I thought. "Isabella, Her expression hardened. "So this isn't new." Panic surged through me. "I didn't mean for you to see that. It wasn't supposed to be shared. Be real." Her tone sharpened. "How long have you been hiding this?" "It's not hiding," I said, voice cracking. "It's just something I do to feel like myself." "Yourself." She almost laughed, not cruelly, but incredulously. "Who is yourself, Alex? Because the person standing in front of me doesn't look like the man I know." Her words sliced deeper than she realized. I met her gaze in the mirror, tears blurring my reflection. Maybe that's the point. For a long moment, she didn't move. The silence between us was thick with everything unsaid, love, fear, the delicate thread of trust stretched to its breaking point. Then she sighed, stepping back. "I need a minute." She grabbed her phone and walked out. The bathroom door closed behind her with a soft click, but the sound felt final. I stood there, staring at the woman in the mirror, at the half-painted face, the trembling hands, the ghost of lipstick staining my mouth. For the first time, I didn't know which reflection hurt more, the one that looked like me or the one that didn't. I wanted to take everything off, to wash it all away, to go back to the simple comfort of not being seen. But my legs refused to move. Instead, I sat on the edge of the tub, hands buried in my hair, trying to breathe. Minutes passed, maybe hours. The apartment was quiet, except for the faint creak of the floorboards as Isabella moved in the other room. Then suddenly the lights flickered. The faint buzz of the bathroom bulb wavered and went out. Darkness swallowed the room. The air felt strange, heavy, electric. I stood, fumbled for the switch, but nothing happened. A blackout? Maybe. Or maybe the building's old wiring finally gave up. But then I saw it. The mirror, faintly glowing, illuminated not by light, but by reflection. My reflection. The outline shimmered faintly, like the makeup itself was alive, holding on. My reflection smiled, but I didn't. And just for a second, one terrible, heart-stopping second, the reflection moved before I did. I stumbled back, hitting the wall. My heart hammered in my chest. The glow faded as quickly as it had appeared. When the lights flickered back on, the mirror was normal again, but I wasn't. The woman staring back was still wearing makeup. Perfect, flawless, untouched. I touched my cheek.
Dry.
No residue. My reflection didn't mimic the motion. A cold shiver crawled up my spine. And from the living room, Isabella called, her voice distant, almost echoing. Alex? You okay? But when I looked at the mirror again, the woman inside smiled wider, lips moving before mine. Yes, she mouthed. I'm perfect. The apartment felt wrong. Every shadow seemed sharper, stretched too far. The hum of the fridge in the kitchen sounded lower, heavier. Even my own breathing seemed to echo, a second beat out of sync, like it belonged to someone else. I stood frozen in the doorway, staring at the mirror. The woman's reflection, my reflection, had gone still again, but the silence that followed was deafening. Alex. Isabella's voice came again, softer this time. I turned toward the sound. She was standing at the end of the hallway, her face pale in the flickering light. Are you okay? She asked again, stepping closer. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to sound normal. But when I opened my mouth, the words didn't come out. Instead, the reflection behind me, the woman in the mirror, smiled again. Slowly, deliberately. And this time, Isabella saw it too. Her eyes widened. What? The lights snapped off. Pitch black. I could hear her gasp, then the sound of something shattering. A mirror? A frame? I reached for her, my hands brushing against her arm, but the air felt colder now. Different. When the lights blinked back on, everything looked almost the same. Almost. The bathroom mirror lay cracked, spiderweb fractures splitting my reflection into jagged fragments. In one piece of glass, I saw my own terrified eyes. In another, her. The woman. Still perfect. Still smiling. Isabella took a step back. Alex, what is that? I shook my head. I don't know. But I did. Deep down, I did. Because she wasn't just a reflection anymore. She was me, or what I'd been pretending to be for weeks. The girl the stylist had sculpted. The girl I'd seen more often than my own face. The girl who had started to feel real. And now she was looking back, like she wanted to stay. I picked up the broken shard, my hand trembling. The glass was warm. Too warm. She's not real, I whispered. The reflection tilted her head. Then impossibly, she mouthed something back. Neither are you. The air went still. Behind me, Isabella whispered, Alex, put it down. But I couldn't. The reflection moved again. Faster this time. The lips, the eyes, the expression. It was alive, but not mine anymore. Then the mirror surface shimmered once more, liquid and glass at once, and before I could react, the reflection's hand pressed against the inside of the glass. And I felt it. A faint pressure against my palm. Real. Warm. Pulling. Isabella screamed my name as the world blurred. Light bending, my vision folding in on itself. For a split second, I saw both sides, myself standing in the bathroom, and her, smiling from inside the mirror. Then everything went white. When I opened my eyes, everything was still. The apartment was quiet again. Too quiet. The crack in the mirror was gone. The lights hummed normally. Isabella? I called, voice hoarse. No answer. I walked into the living room. Her bag was on the couch,
Her phone on the counter.
but she wasn't there. The city outside looked different, hazy, dreamlike, like everything was slightly out of focus. I turned back toward the mirror in the hallway. The woman in the reflection looked calm, serene. She lifted a hand and waved. I froze, because I hadn't moved. And when I opened my mouth to scream, the sound didn't come out, not in the room, anyway. Only in the reflection. Her lips curved into a soft smile, the kind Isabella used to give me when she adjusted my makeup. Then she whispered, through glass and silence, I told you I was perfect. The lights flickered once more, and when they came back on, the reflection was alone. Just her. Just the woman. And she was smiling. Outside, the stylist sign across the street flickered back to life after the blackout. Beauty is becoming. The glass caught the light, and for a brief second, a familiar face smiled back. But this time, no one noticed that it wasn't Alex's face anymore.